Welcome to HelloMD Live. I'm Pamela Hadfield.
And I'm Dr. Perry Solomon with this week's stories. Pamela, today, what do we have?
Well, we have some exciting news because Microsoft has jumped into the cannabis industry.
Now, they're the first huge corporation that's actually partnered with a company producing software to be able to track sales of cannabis from seed when they grow them all the way to sales. And the company was Kind Financial, and that gives you an idea about what they're looking for.
Yeah, so seed to sale is a really big sort of topic and a big sort of phrase that you hear in the cannabis industry all the time. And so seed to sale means that from the moment that seed, that cannabis seed exists, all the way to the purchase, people want to track that. But the question is, why did Microsoft, what's their interest? Why do they want to get into this now?
They're a company, it's for the money. I mean, it's pretty obvious why they're doing it, because as more and more states and countries all over the world start legalizing cannabis, there's going to be compliance laws that they have to follow. And so in the United States, they're going to have to track where the cannabis is going from all the way to how it's being sold to be able to see the dollars that are coming in for the revenue to be able to be taxed. So Microsoft, which used to be the quote old stodgy company versus Apple that was the hip company, now they're the cool company actually getting into the cannabis field.
I don't know if it's that they're cool, but I think it's exactly what you're talking about. It's about the dollars and tracking those dollars. And the interesting part about this is that they are placing this within their government division. So to me, I think everything that you're talking about with compliance is exactly right. And they're gearing this towards not only being a national business, but a global business as more and more states, as more and more countries legalize cannabis either medicinally or recreationally. They want to have a part of that action.
And I foresee other large companies getting involved in this as it gets bigger and bigger and more states legalize it, and possibly the whole U.S. does as well because of revenue opportunities.
Well, it put a big smile on my face the day that this announcement came out, because I think the more big corporations get into this industry, the more it legitimizes, what we're doing and what's happening here.
Exactly.
All right, Perry, so we're moving on to Illinois.
Okay.
Illinois is like so many other states where they have legal medicinal marijuana laws, and yet they're so incredibly restrictive with the medical conditions that are on that list of how you get diagnosed and then how you get your cannabis. So a Cook County judge actually ruled that PTSD should be on the list of medical conditions.
Well, and this is big because it's the first condition that they're able to use subjective opinions from the patient saying that, yes, this is something that you suffer from, I believe you, you have PTSD, why don't you be able to use cannabis to be able to help treat that? It's just like every other condition when you go into a doctor's office, for example, and you say, doctor, I can't sleep, I have pain, et cetera, I have arthritis. Can you prescribe something? They write for Ambien, they write for Vicodin, et cetera, which are all subjective opinions. So finally, the judge realizes, PTSD is a condition in Illinois that you can use cannabis for.
Well, and so currently you have to have something like cancer, and then you can get cannabis.
You have to prove it, right?
Yes, you have hepatitis C, blood tests will prove it. You can get cannabis. So what the judge is saying, and what this ruling is saying, is that the Public Department of Health has to look at the wide array of medical conditions and reconsider what's going on, and possibly put things like chronic pain, osteoarthritis, migraines, all of those different more subjective medical conditions onto this list.
And they have to actually listen to their medical board, which recommended putting PTSD and this other ones on the list of approved conditions, and the public health department just ignored their whole list of recommendations.
Yes, and so we don't know why that happened. Maybe it was a political decision, maybe there was public pressure, we don't know, but this judge has ruled that they need to reconsider, and so bravo to them.
Well, it's the first step, and hopefully other subjective conditions, like you mentioned arthritis and chronic pain, will be put on the list as well.
Yes.
Great story.
So Perry, in Australia, we've read that there's a new research project going on regarding cannabis and melanoma. What's happening?
Well, in Australia, they have a huge amount of melanomas. They have about, in 2016, they expect about 13,000 people to get melanoma and about 1,800 people to pass away. So what they wound up doing, the University of Canberra teamed up in a $1 million deal with Can Pharmaceuticals of Australia to be able to study a strain of cannabis grown in Israel, to test it in 50,000 Australians to see if it decreases the incidence of melanoma in those people.
That's interesting, and so it's a specific strain, and when they use it, will it be used in conjunction with traditional treatments like radiation and chemotherapy?
Absolutely, because one treatment modality doesn't usually work, especially in melanoma. So they want to combine it with radiation, with chemo, and also test it with this strain from Israel to be able to see if the combination of all three helps boost their immune system to hopefully decrease the chance of the melanoma spreading and eventually causing death in these people.
And so how long will this study go on for?
Well, it's a 2-year study, but they're really encouraged by the preliminary results, and they hope to even see starting results as soon as 9 months. And of course, if they see what happens with all these studies, if they see positive results in 9 months, they wind up cutting off the study and saying, listen, there's too much of a risk for the people not to get cannabis, so let's give the cannabis to everybody to be able to help everybody instead of waiting the whole 2 years.
That's fantastic, and so we hope that there's going to be good results with this, right?
Well, we hope so because, in the United States alone, there's 76,000 cases a year, and about 8,000 of these people die in the United States alone. So hopefully they'll be able to take the results of that study and apply it in the United States also.
Absolutely. So Perry.
Yes, Pamela.
Yes, Colombia. So the Congress voted to legalize medical marijuana this May in Colombia, which is kind of an interesting story based on their history with the drug trade.
So they're going from cocaine to medical marijuana extraction techniques or licenses.
Yes, so they have 7 licenses that they'll be giving out, and they're all for extraction. So I think what they're trying to do is get other companies from outside of the country to come to Colombia to do their extraction processes there.
And then hopefully getting licenses down the road to be able to grow cannabis as well.
Well, they're going to have the 7 licenses, and the first license went out to a Canadian company called Pharmaciello, and Pharmaciello is down there creating an extraction company right now and taking advantage of the cheap labor force that they have down there, and they would like to export to different countries throughout the world.
So in other words, with the cheap labor, they eventually, if they could want to export to the United States and compete with people growing and extracting here in this country also.
Exactly. So I think one of the interesting points of this story is it's really giving some insight into globalization that's going to happen around the cannabis industry, because they are making a lot of noise about how cheap their labor force is and that they will be very well suited to this type of work. And so there's the globalization aspect, but then there's also the aspect that Colombia obviously is going to hope to export at some point to the United States.
Okay, well, I mean, or other countries also, because other countries hopefully will be able to see the light and be able to accept these exports also, maybe with no tariffs and no competition like they may see in the United States.
Exactly, and so there is a footprint for this already. The Canadian company Tilray is already exporting to Croatia. But exporting to the United States, there's a lot of different rules and regulations that are very different state by state here, and currently you can't even import or export outside of a state's boundaries, much less import-export to different countries or get cannabis from other countries into the United States.
We'll have to see how this plays out in terms of the labor unions in the U.S., the growers, when everything gets more legalized and more organized. The last thing they want in the United States is cheap competition from outside the United States because of the cheap labor.
Right, and the one big hopes here right now is that we're going to be stimulating the economy through the cannabis industry, and this would sort of cut that off at the knees. So we don't want that.
Well, we'll see what happens, how this develops over
Yeah.
the next couple of years.
A couple years, 10 years, 20 years. This industry is supposed to be a $100 billion industry by 2029. So this is a story that's not going to go away.
All right, terrific. Well, let's see how it plays out.
Exactly.
We'll still be around.
Yeah. So Perry, what's going on with the research with cannabis and Alzheimer's?
Well, there's always been the anecdotal evidence that people take cannabis and it decreases Alzheimer's or slows it down or helps cure it, but there's never been any objective scientific results that show that. The Salk Institute has shown that what they've done is done studies where they've essentially grown brain cells in a petri dish, so essentially in vitro, which means out of the body, and they've grown the brain cells and expose them to THC. And what they found is that normally what happens with Alzheimer's is that there's protein, amyloid essentially, that blocks nerve transmissions between the brain cells, the conduction. And so what they found is when these brain cells are bathed in THC, that amyloid or protein that's found between them that causes Alzheimer's seems to dissipate, go away and dissolve and make the transmission of nerve signals in the brain more fluid and easier to have happen.
But like you said, this is being done in a petri dish first, so they'll start there and then move on to the
To animal studies. Exactly. Unfortunately, a lot of these studies, when they eventually get to humans and even in animals, especially in humans, because it's a class 1, schedule 1 drug, it's very hard to do those studies in humans. And obviously they want to do it in animals to be able to see if the same thing happens, because they can induce Alzheimer's easily in animals and then use THC to see if that decreases their progression of the disease, and then look at the brain by dissection and see if that protein is decreased. So hopefully this will be able to be translated into humans to be able to show the same thing at some point in time.
Well, and obviously they must think that there might be some sort of positive result with this, otherwise they wouldn't have started the research to begin with.
And again, it's a lot of anecdotal information and research from other places in the world that seems to show that. But many times people in the United States and physicians want to see studies from the US to be able to say double blind, et cetera, et cetera. So eventually, when Schedule 1 decreases from Schedule 1 to 2 or 3, these studies will be able to speed up a little bit to be able to actually show that it works. What we know is that it doesn't hurt to be able to use this for Alzheimer's.
And hopefully we'll see these positive results sooner rather than later, because it's such a time-based disease.
And it's happening with more and more population is getting older, and so yes, more and more numbers of people are suffering from Alzheimer's.
All right, well, let's hope that it has positive results.
Yes.
Okay, Perry, I think we're going to Jamaica.
I love Jamaica.
Jamaica's great.
What's up with Jamaica? Let's go.
So
What's up there?
Jamaica has legalized the cannabis industry, and so when you get off your plane in Jamaica, you can go directly to the kiosk where you can buy your marijuana, up to 2 ounces of cannabis, before you even get your bags.
So wait. You don't have to wait. You say maybe you can send your wife or husband to get the bags, and you get the cannabis for your vacation.
Exactly. And they will have medical staff at these kiosks where you can go and get your medical marijuana recommendation, purchase your cannabis, and off you go to your vacation.
Now wait, but I also understand that if you don't have a medical condition that the doctor recognizes, you can just tell them that you have a condition, and they'll still be able to sell you the cannabis.
I believe that's the case. It's pretty relaxed, as it's always been in
It's
Jamaica.
Jamaica. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
So wait, what's the impetus? Why are they doing this? Because people were able to go on the beach and get it illegally from guy walking down the street, but now they can get it at a kiosk at the airport to get the money from the revenue.
That would be my guess, and as anyone who's ever been to Jamaica knows, finding cannabis is like finding a bottle of water. It is that easy to find it. So my guess is that they're going to circumvent that whole trade that's happening on the street and on the beaches by just getting you right when you come off your plane and gaining extra revenue.
Is that what's happening in Colorado? People are being able to get it in the airport when they land in Colorado?
I do not think, no, absolutely not.
They haven't thought about that yet?
No, they have not thought about that. There is no dispensary, because as you know, you have to go to an actual dispensary in Colorado. There is no dispensary in the airport.
Okay, so when you go to Jamaica, the key thing is all you need is your bathing suit and really nothing else.
No, that's it. That's it. Some cash.
What luggage? Who cares?
That's great.
Well, great. These are some great stories.
Yeah. Okay. Well, until next time, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much.